Okay, I've got a story for you today that sounds so completely wild, it just has to be made up. But it's not. It all revolves around a simple errand, a local family business, and, somehow, the single most expensive pair of trousers in legal history.
Just take a second and look at this number. $54 million. What do you think that buys you? A private jet? Maybe a small tropical island? Well, in this story, that was the price tag put on something way, way more ordinary.
Yep, you heard that right. This entire unbelievable saga, this multi-million-dollar legal war, all started because of one single missing pair of pants. Seriously? The question is, how on earth do we get here?
We're diving into the true story of Pearson versus Chung, a case from back in 2007. And it is the perfect example of how a tiny disagreement can just spiral completely out of control and turn into a legal spectacle that, believe me, got the whole country's attention. So to really understand how this all happened, we have to go right back to the beginning. It really all started with just two things: the people involved and a simple promise made on a sign. On one side, you have Roy Pearson, and he's an administrative law judge. I mean, this is a guy who for a living lives and breathes the law. And on the other side, you have the Chung family, immigrants who poured everything they had into their local neighborhood dry cleaning shop.
And there it is. That's the phrase that kicked this whole thing off. Just two words, hanging in the window of the Chung's shop. Satisfaction guaranteed. Now, to you and me, that's just a common business slogan, right? A promise of good service. But to Judge Pearson, oh, it meant something else entirely. You see, Pearson's entire argument was built on his unique legal interpretation of that sign. He claimed it wasn't just some friendly marketing. No, he argued it was an unconditional contract with every single person who walked through that door, a legally binding promise of total satisfaction with absolutely no limits whatsoever. And with that incredibly rigid interpretation, the battle lines were drawn. What should have been a simple customer complaint was about to explode into a full-blown courtroom drama. And listen, this wasn't some quick dispute. The trousers went missing way back in 2005. But instead of a simple, quick resolution, it kicked off a legal fight that would drag on for 2 whole years, only finally reaching a verdict in 2007. The two sides were just worlds apart. It was like they were speaking different languages. Pearson was demanding massive compensation, not just for the pants, but for what he saw as a broken legal promise. Meanwhile, the Chungs, who just saw this as a customer service issue, kept offering to pay for the pants. But Pearson refused. Every single time. And this is where the whole thing just goes completely off the rails. Pearson's calculation for damages, it wasn't just for the trousers. He included things like emotional distress, legal fees, and, get this, even the cost to rent a car so he could drive to a different dry cleaner for years. And that is how a simple dispute over a pair of pants inflated into a $54 million lawsuit. But, behind all the crazy headlines and the jaw-dropping numbers, there was a devastating real-world impact here. For the Chung family, this wasn't some legal curiosity. They were facing financial ruin. The legal fees alone threatened to bankrupt them and destroy the business they had worked so hard to build. Their lives were consumed by stress, all over one pair of pants. So after years of headlines, courtroom arguments, and all that stress, the case finally came to an end. But honestly, what does justice even look like in a situation this absurd? Well, in the end, the court sided with the Chungs. The judge ruled against Pearson, saying that, a reasonable person would never interpret satisfaction guaranteed as some kind of unlimited blank check warranty. So the case was dismissed. But that victory came at a huge cost. This quote really says it all. The legal system technically worked in the end, sure, but not before the process itself nearly destroyed the lives of a hardworking family, all because of a simple, fixable mistake. And that's what this whole wild story leaves us with, right? This one crucial question. The law is supposed to be there to protect us, to make sure things are fair. But the story of the $54 million trousers shows how that very same system can be pushed to an absolute ridiculous extreme. It really makes you ask, at what point does the search for satisfaction stop being about justice and start becoming something else entirely?